Welcome back to Photo Finds. I am your host, Kevin Yee, and this week we are going to do a couple of things in Epcot and also have a look at the new Mario Andretti arena. So we begin looking at the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival, which has returned this year, as it always does in the fall, this time with an expanded schedule and lineup. It's there for longer at the beginning and staying there longer at the end as well. Now, as you can tell from the last couple of pictures, there's kind of a Greek revival theme going on here, and we've got Remy once again as the quote-unquote host of the Food and Wine Festival, which makes sense given his starring role as a chef in the Ratatouille movie. So we're having a look at the Festival Center, the former Wonders of Life Pavilion here first, and as always, they've decorated the area with signage appropriate for Food and Wine Festival and taken over all of the stages. So we'll have a look around those. We're going to begin, though, first at the bookstore that they have. It's kind of a bookstore and art store at the same time, set up at the entrance to the Festival Center. And if you were to zoom in, you would see that there's fine art that's custom every year. And I never buy these, but other people must because it comes back year after year. So obviously doing well for Disney and for some people. There is a cafe here in Food and Wine, although as you can see it's not particularly busy because people are out at the food booths rather than at the Festival Center booth or Festival Center food, but I thought it would be worthwhile to have a look here at what sorts of things they have available. So a tuna sandwich or a Asian chicken salad in the $11 or $8 range basically is the food options we're looking at there. Now, they do have a number of stages in here. These are for shows. Some of them are free, most of them are not. They also have a shop nearby, and this is the main Festival Center shop, where they have everything from beers of the world over to the festival-specific logos and the t-shirts and stuff that goes with it. Now, in the middle of this picture, we see a poster. I'm going to zoom in on that poster a little bit and address that controversy that you might have heard elsewhere, that this logo might look familiar to those of you who have been around long enough, if you perhaps remember Schoolhouse Rocks. So there's a bit of a three-dimensional look to the lettering in both cases, so I think it's probably a little derivative in this case. Back to the shop, they've got other merchandise associated with sort of black and white logos, in this case Lumiere and Be Our Guest sort of stuff. They do have some things specifically for annual pass holders. So there's some shirts and cups and then Dooney and Burke bags. But then I wanted to call attention to these evil salt and pepper shakers. I say evil because unfortunately I started collecting those things and now it feels like I have to get them every time. Another stage off to the side. This is one is going to be used for a cooking demonstration. And as you can see, they do take the time to decorate the entire festival around the inside as well. So it's not just a quick job decorating for the festival. Now, the former home of Making of Me, that movie theater in the center of the pavilion, is now showing Seasons of the Vine, which if you've ever been to Disney's California Adventure in its early years, you saw this movie back then. DCA was supposed to have something of a model vineyard, really a very small thing, just to talk about the process of wine making. So it's a bit of a fit here for the Food and Wine Festival. Now, over in the corner, we've got the chocolate experience. This has been there for a few years now. You can see someone from Ghirardelli handing out Ghirardelli chocolates as you go into the facility, where if you bothered to, you could read about the history of chocolate in Ghirardelli. But most people are here for this. These are the Pure Chocolate Creations, where they've got Disney movies and Disney theme parks represented as works of art done in chocolate. So Moana there. This one's a little harder to understand until you know what it is. It's Avatar, Pandora over in Animal Kingdom. We've got a Beauty and the Beast. I'm going to take this from a couple of different angles because I think the close-up of the balcony or the staircase, I guess is what I was trying to say there, is noteworthy in and of itself. I'm even going to zoom in so you can see some of the real attention paid to detail on the Rococo layout there. Wreck-It Ralph also close up there, but here's a wider view. You can see there's a lot of detail in this one as well. And a second Moana display, also out of chocolate. And then finally pandas set in a China environment. One more side showcase, and this one obviously dedicated to wine. You can see them looking at wine glasses. This over here was the former entrance to Body Wars, so you're understanding how we're moving around the pavilion here. And just beyond that entrance would be the wine shop, where they sell bottles of wine. Can't take it with you. It has to be delivered to you as you leave the park. And then one final stage. This is for sort of a preview of the Chew, although the Chew show itself would be videotaped outside on the stage near World Showcase Lagoon. They do give you a passport, as they have always done every year. This year, instead of stamps, they've got some stickers in there, so it's kind of more do-it-yourself, I guess. And they do have some pictures of the food you can expect around the Food and Wine Festival. The Odyssey Pavilion has been transformed into a craft beer exhibit, but in addition to the craft beers and the flights and so forth that you can see around here, so $9 flights of 3 different kinds of beer, they're actually pretty good. They've got an Epcot 35 display behind me as I take this picture. So the Epcot 35 is divided into Future World, on the one side, and World Showcase on the other. So looking at the Future World side, what you see is a bunch of concept art, and then they've got pictures of sort of the early days of Future World, as well as some things that are no longer present. This is working your way around the Odyssey Theater, the Odyssey Restaurant, I guess I should say. More concept art of World of Motion, and then finally what's happening in Ellen's Energy Adventure. On the previous slide with World of Motion, actually, that was changed out a little bit after these photos were taken, so they've tried to update this exhibit as they go, in recognition that it needs to be a little bit of a living exhibit, and people will come back over time during the festival. So then in the middle of the area, what you have is a slideshow playing on this main screen here. Obviously the Epcot 35 logo and the color scheme that would be more appropriate to 1982 than now. And then they're blaring music from old Epcot as well. It's really if you're a historian of the Disney parks, it's a great place to go visit and to hang out. So over to the other side, World Showcase side, and they've got some pictures set up here as well, where they've got concept art, as well as that was old, this one's new, of the Norway Pavilion, as well as things that we see when the park was new, and the construction of the park, right down to the maquettes and the installation of things like the phone booths and so forth. There's a quick glance at the shop inside this Epcot 35 area, and then back to the phone booth picture I was referencing a moment ago, as well as the future of World Showcase, the coming Ratatouille ride in the France Pavilion. Now, in the areas near both of those concept art sketches, what we have are some models. On the Future World side, there's a Spaceship Earth model, and then on the World Showcase side, we've got this model of Canada, which I had not really seen before, despite being to several of these Disney kind of experiences, and so I thought it was an interesting thing to have displayed for us. Looking at the way it's sort of cut here, I'm actually kind of wondering if this is the original production model that they shoved together and to try to sell the idea of an Epcot, 2 different halves, the World Showcase half and the Future World half, in the absence of Walt Disney trying to decide what should be the theme park that we're going to build. And they built these elaborate models, and you've seen pictures of the giant model. I think we're finally seeing some close-ups of the models themselves, and they're pretty detailed. They're missing some things. In this case, the statue of St. George fighting the dragon in the Germany Pavilion. But they're also really interesting to look at sort of from close up. And if you examine them closely, you see that they're actually made of things like cardboard and stuff you might find in railroad model kits. Now back out to the Food and Wine Festival, you see that there is a Figment topiary, as there often is, as well as special booths, this time encroaching in the Future World area. So off to my right here is the former Communicore area. So Club Cool is, the entrance to Club Cool is over to there. This Flavors from Fire booth is new and includes its own seating area. And, everything we tried here was actually really very good. And so I think they've taken the food quality a level up, although, of course, the prices keep rising, as you might expect. Now, in that area that I mentioned a moment ago, the former Communicore, they've got the Light Lab set up. Now, the Light Lab, if you go around the corner to this entrance here, is essentially a bar. And it's not huge. They don't have enough seating for everyone, or actually no seating at all, not enough tables for everyone. But what they're experimenting with here is not just the neon, but the science of taste. And so there's these chalkboards explaining the science of taste, and they give demonstrations about taste and show how things are assembled and to put into a tasty beverage that you can eat all on your own. And this is one of them here where they don't mix, the levels don't mix because they're made of different viscosity, I think, as well as this glow donut, or glow-nut, I think they call it. One of the more affordable things at the Food and Wine Festival, actually. Just outside from this area is a set of booths that really was about the sustainability and sustainable eating in previous times, although it's not necessarily organic or just vegetarian this time around. I'm really taking a picture here because of the ornateness of the booth, and many of the booths this year are brand new, and many of them are ornate. What we don't have this year is the cranberry bog, which was formerly located in this area. In fact, there is no mention here of any kind of vendor. So previous years, Chase Cards, the Chase Bank, was one of the sponsors, and there was a Chase Lounge that people holding a Disney Chase Visa could go visit, and that's not here this year at all. So from there, we zoom over behind the Orlando Convention Center to the Mario Andretti Center, and they've got, as you can see here, a driving range for driving golf balls. And the Andretti Indoor Karting and Games, I guess, is the official name of this facility. Opened up not too long ago. Over to my right here is Universal Drive, which will zoom around and behind me go towards Universal the Park. Almost directly behind me as I take this picture is the Orlando Convention Center. Now what you're going to find in there is things like a bar and a bowling alley. It's somewhat minimal. I like the color scheme. They've got a lot of lights going on in there. A shop for people who are fans of racing gear, and in fact a racing car itself there if you want to take a picture with that. Most of this area though is what you can think of as an arcade. So this is one of the upcharge experiences. It's a simulator where it moves around as you drive. And there are places here you can sign up. This is where you sign up to do any of the experiences, such as laser tag. That's one of the experiences. It's about $10. Or the climbing area over here on the challenge nets that's over on the side here. Or this dark ride, which has you shoot at things. Think of it as a stationary Buzz Lightyear ride where it is a motion simulator and it is reactive to what you're doing. We've seen coverage of this sort of thing from IAAPA for several years now. All of those sort of upcharge things cost about $10 or $12 each. They do have quite a lot of arcade games, and I was taking this picture to show off all of the color scheme they've got going here. It's rather modern looking actually when you're there in person. In fact, the tickets give you, the cards and the games give you tickets that are awarded back to your digital card. And there are a number of games here. As you can see, they are colorful, they're brassy, they're loud. This is a Wizard of Oz kind of the sort of gambling almost sort of thing that you see in Las Vegas, in this case with tokens, and you earn additional tickets that you can redeem later on. This is an unusual shot, sort of representative of what the arcade itself looks like. Giant screens. It's a little bit more about displaying the spectacle of gaming rather than sort of the intimate nature of gaming itself. So it's much more updated, of course, than Disney Quest had been in recent years. Now they do have indoor go-karts here as part of the Andretti area. Now that would make sense given the Andretti name. And you can go visit them and look at them from above. This is kind of a sky bar that they have set up here where you can get food as well as alcoholic drinks. And in fact from here you can go step outside to the sort of the bridge that they have out on the side there. And within the bridge you can have a view of the cars racing by just outside. So this is what it looks like through the window, and then if I step out onto the bridge, you get a view here first of the arcade I've left behind. You step through the area where they gear up the riders themselves, and then you can see that this is a second floor go-kart area. It extends off to the side here, comes back here, and you can see the sort of the almost half-pipe feeling here if you connect with the skateboarding analogy, that it's tilted and there's an angle at the same time that you're going around corners. It makes for really interesting go-karting. So finally back over to Epcot for the 35th anniversary, which took place on October 1st. They had sales going on in a couple of locations. The pop-up shop was in the former Innovations off to the right-hand side, Art of Disney just being behind me as I take this picture. Long lines most of the day, some special merchandise, many of them saying things like, "I was there" for the 35th. They do have some special merchandise available around the park. You can see some of the logos and t-shirts that they had available. And if you step into Mouse Gear, you see that they had an area sort of in the middle that had the t-shirts and other hats and special gear, such as this weight that you would put around your lanyards, let's say. And then this hat for Epcot 35 that shows off the logos of the original pavilions. And then over to the Starbucks facilities. This is the other side of Future World, and they have, you can see by looking at the cast member's hand here, the mug is really enormous, but they had a special mug for Epcot 35, and it did say Starbucks on the backside from there. At several of the food booths, there were champagnes and other things that you could buy that had the special 35th champagne flute. In fact, it had a light-up thing, LED beneath it that even changed colors as you drank. So that's going to do it for us this week. We're glad that you came out, and we hope that you get a chance to experience Food and Wine. I do think that the Andretti facility is worth a visit if you've not been there before. It does end up being a really sort of quite glorified arcade, but those other upcharge experiences, again, any of them from $10 to $12, except the racing, which is closer to $20, those are things that are neat to imagine doing, especially if you're from out of town and want to just get a chance to do them once. So with that, we hope to see you guys around next time, and in the meantime, have fun in the parks.